All right, welcome back to the Money Down Pod, ladies and gentlemen. This is an NBA podcast. So much going on right now. That is my guy, Sean White. You can give him a follow, as always, at Dumpster Fire Fan. Great stuff going on his Twitter. Myself at Kayvon_sports. And give the show a follow as well, please, at Money Down Pod. Sean, let's get into it. Happy NFL schedule release day, which we're going to have a massive pod about this weekend when all of that comes out. And happy NFL schedule release day to all of you out there that love the NFL. But for all of you that love the NBA, we've got a lot to talk about on this pod right here. We are going to break down all the series going on right now, get into the ins and outs of it. Sean's got a point he wants to bring up, a question that he's going to ask me about Giannis and something he wants to go in on that. And then we're also going to talk about what Nets general manager Sean Marks just said about Kyrie Irving. And I'm going to tell you guys why he said a ton in that one little paragraph. And there's so much that Nets or any NBA fans need to take away from that. And then we're going to end it off talking about Jeannie Buss's interview with the LA Times, and one of the most, really famous reporters, Bill Plaschke, did that as well. So we'll break it all down right here. Sean, the NBA playoffs are they're wild, man. When you think the games are going to be bad, they're good. When you think the games are going to be good, they're bad. When you think the freaking Grizzlies are completely out of it because Ja's injured, they easily should have won the last two games with him out. It's been a very weird NBA playoffs so far, but it's been entertaining. What have your thoughts been on the playoffs in all?
Yeah, these NBA playoffs have actually been a huge bright spot. They've been really good so far, really good games going on. Kind of surprising with the injuries, to be honest, too, because really going into the series, we were kind of scared Luka was going to be out. Then Book got hurt. Both of them are back and playing well. Now we got Ja out, and the Grizzlies, you kind of don't know what to expect from them. Let's go ahead and knock them out real quick. Let's go down the line. I'm going to go start with the 76ers Heat series because no offense to those teams, but that's probably the series that has the least amount of juice going on right now. That's the series I haven't been as invested in. I do think the Heat's going to pull that out in the end just because the Sixers have kind of a weird vibe going on with them, and Embiid is kind of up and down right now with all of his injuries going on. He's kind of falling apart here at the end of the year. Sad to see, but Harden's obviously not the same guy he used to be scoring-wise. He's giving the assist numbers you can get, but sometimes those Sixers role players just don't do the scoring they need to do as well. And look, the Heat just don't play any flashy ball for really people to kind of pick up on. They play that gritty, tough Miami Heat type, Pat Riley type basketball out there. They haven't even put Duncan Robinson really in the game to shoot, which is kind of strange. But it's just a grinded out type game from the Heat. And I think the Heat probably going to grind this out, maybe go 7 games and take it out just on their home floor. But that's kind of the slower, more sluggish series. No offense to those two teams. Still been a good series, but it's one of the less pub series out there between the groups that we're talking about.
Without a doubt, the Heat are going to win this series. I do think Philly has a chance to win it tonight, but I don't see any chance at all unless Joel Embiid goes Superman for them to win in Miami because of everything you just said. The Heat, let's just face it, they're kind of boring, but they play phenomenal defense. I mean, they absolutely lock you down on defense. The issue with the Heat is their outside shooting is a big issue. And that's why I don't understand why they're not playing guys like Duncan Robinson. When Tyler Hero and Max Strus and these guys aren't hitting their shots outside, they really have no one else because Jimmy Butler's not an outside shooter. He can get his bucket at any time, but he's not an outside shooter. Bam Adebayo wants nothing to do with Embiid in this series. He's having a decent series, but whenever Embiid's been on the court, he has been a shell of himself. With all that being said, the Heat are going to win this series because of James Harden. Listen, I saw the comments from Chuck, from Charles Barkley about how Game 5 Embiid was pissed off because he didn't win the award. Guys, Embiid's known that he hasn't won that award for like 2 weeks now. Everybody's known Jokic is going to win that award. That had nothing to do with it. Embiid has a broken face. The person that we need to be talking about here is Harden. Harden is playing terrible. And I tweeted it out right after he had that phenomenal Game 4. That is an anomaly at this point in his career. This is who James Harden is. Now, maybe he can come back next year into shape or something, but something has fallen off with James Harden. And the reason why James Harden was so good, and me and Sean have talked about this on the pod, on text, was so good in Houston was because he had this way of getting around people with that first step when he was behind the arc. And he would get around them so quickly, it would force them to foul him, which he would always go to the line, or he was so good with that outside shot, it would have teams push up on them, and then he would blow by them. He can't blow by them anymore, and they're not scared to push up on him because he can't make a three anymore consistently. Harden's game is completely gone, dude. It's shot. And Miami is feasting on that because their defense is so good. And Maxey and an injured Joel Embiid is just not enough. It's a boring series because of that. If Embiid was fully healthy, maybe it would be a little bit better, but I still don't think it would because they need Harden, and Harden is just not Harden, man. And I don't know if he's ever going to be Harden again.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little troubling with Harden. I think going forward, Harden's probably going to have to look at his game and reassess it. I think if you look at how he used to play, he was probably a better version of a deep shooter than Luka is,
Yes.
where Luka has a little more dominant post game. And that's kind of the comparison you make between the two when he was a dominant scorer, because right now that's Luka. Luka's the dominant scorer we have out there with the ball usage rate and everything. But I think Harden's probably going to have to look at his game and go, I need to try to be Chris Paul over the next 5 years. I need to play that game. I need to make sure I'm getting all the teammates involved, get them organized, be the best point guard on the planet, and really get to my spots. You know, Chris Paul always finds a way to the elbow, finds a way to the little side shot, the little short one. He finds his spots to go to, and I think that's what Harden's going to have to do. He's going to have to find a certain 3 or 4 spots he can get to get his offense, and the rest of the time he's going to have to get teammates involved and run the show that way. So that's what I think Harden's going to have to do moving forward. I agree with you. The Heat's probably going to win this one here in 7. Might even win it in 6, but I do give Philly a puncher's chance at home because they played well at home so far. So I can see that going back to South Beach to finish it off. Well, let's go into that Grizzlies series because that's the one that I thought was kind of over once Ja got hurt. And man, the Grizzlies came out and played better. Just straight up played better without him. And that's not a take to be like, oh, they're better without Ja. No, they're not better without Ja. They play a better brand of basketball where everyone steps up. And it could be the home crowd behind them with the role players and everything. I do believe the Warriors are probably going to get them next game. Let's be real. But, God, they were up by 55 at one point in that game. 55. That was just a curb stomping of epic proportions. And really, if not for Dylan Brooks, they could have won 2 of those games. If Dylan Brooks doesn't go all happy, everywhere.
They should have won both.
Yeah, so let's be real. This Grizzlies team around Ja, they're kind of dangerous, and it's really all it does is make you really sad that Ja did get hurt because they had a way bigger ceiling than even we thought going in. And now with him injured, you kind of just take that one closer, that one star player out of the game that could win you a close game like he did in game 2.
It's remarkable what the Grizzlies do without Ja, dude. I mean, it is crazy. And now we're at the point where it's not just like where we can just say, oh, this is a limit. We have enough of a sample size to say this is a real thing. And again, if anybody comes up and tries to say they're better without Ja, they're just ignorant. They don't understand basketball. There's a difference between being better without your superstar and just being able to switch things to the opponents not being able to fix it, really. When Ja's not in the game, they're literally just playing team basketball, and these other players are stepping up right now. When Ja was in the game, some of these guys weren't stepping up as much because they weren't touching the ball as much because Ja had the ball in his hands, and rightfully so. He was closing out a lot of those games and everything like that. The Warriors have to figure out how to play defense against this team without Ja. And right now, they haven't been able to. And I think a big reason for that is because, and this is going to sound like a shot at Mike Brown, and it is a shot at Mike Brown. It's because Steve Kerr's not there. And if I'm the Sacramento Kings right now, I am looking, Sean's team, I am looking around saying, did we just hire that coach that just was down 55 points with Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, and Draymond Green on their team? Did we just hire that coach? Like, again, this is not on Mike Brown. This is not all on him, but that is a terrible look, man. That is a really bad look. Do I think that they lose that game with Steve Kerr there? Yes. Do I think they lose it that bad? No, I don't. I think that the Warriors right now are I don't want to say flustered because they're a championship team. I think that they're genuinely just kind of confused on how to play this team without Ja, and they got to figure it out. And I think that they still close it out in 6. But Sean, I think that game 6 is very close. I don't think the Warriors blow them out like a lot of people think they will in game 6. I think that is going to be a really, really close game 6. And my point moving forward on the Warriors is I would have some pause about them if I was picking them or betting on them or a fan of them to go to the finals, because that is, dude, you're supposed to be a championship team. And I was sitting watching that game, and at one point I heard Iron Eagle go, the Warriors now got it down to 50. And I started busting out laughing because I was like, did I just hear an announcer say that during a closeout playoff game possibly? That to me causes for a lot of concern. I know a lot of people are sitting around saying this team's confident enough, and they are. And they're going to bounce back, and they're going to win the series and all that stuff. I totally get it. But it's not going to be easy. And it would cause me concern that in a playoff atmosphere, they're able to no-show like that. That's worrisome.
Yeah, completely agree. I think game 6 will be close, like you said as well. And I do think we should probably discuss this a little too, because I made such a big point of it on the last pod, and you agreed with me. Can we dive down on that Jordan Poole hype a little bit,
yes,
didn't we?
Big time.
I said in the last pod, let's see him play against the Grizzlies with their wing defenders. Mm-hmm. Let's see him play maybe a Mikal Bridges or a Finney Smith or somebody with length if they play Dallas or the Suns next round. And you can tell it in this series. He's just not as effective when you actually play tough defense on him like that. That was just a poor matchup with the Nuggets when everybody was doing the whole pool party thing. And really what we said in that series too was Clay was back, and now Clay is actually having an issue too with the defense. Clay just can't get his rhythm going in the series. So that's where you see this drawback from the Warrior team we saw against the Nuggets in the first round. You see the drawback from Poole, you see the drawback from Clay, and now they're more back to earth when those levels are happening. Would you agree with that?
Without a doubt. I mean, look, the game 1 against Memphis, he did his thing. He hit 5 threes, 31 points. Since that, man, he's gone 1 for 6 from 3, 20 points. He's gone 3 for 5, 27 points. He had a good game in game 2. He went 14 points, 0 for 3, 3 points last game, 1 for 3. He's just been a normal player. He's just been a normal player now. This whole nonsense about him being some superstar or the next Splash Brother, you called it. You said it first. I agreed with you. It was too much. He's a good player, but we were talking about him like he's another Curry, another Clay. Watch out. And it's only going to get tougher, like you just said, next series if they play any of those guys, but especially if they play Phoenix, because Bridges and Crowder are going to do something to him that, once again, he hasn't seen, and the world hasn't been able to see what Poole can do against it.
Yeah, and getting on to that, we can go to that series as well. But even that, Book plays really legitimate defense out there as well. He's a very underrated defender in himself. So they're going to have guys that can defend those Warriors guards if it is the Suns that come out. But one thing we talked about the Grizzlies Warriors, they kind of don't like each other a little bit, which is making for these playoffs good. These two teams, the Mavericks and the Suns, they really don't like each other.
They don't.
I mean, they hate each other. And that's great for the NBA because the NBA used to be a big-time rivalry type sport. Yep. So it's good to see teams getting some animosity toward each other like that. You can tell Doncic is kind of over Book, and you can tell Book just really doesn't like all the hype Doncic gets, and Chris Paul feels the same way. So it's fun to see these teams go back and forth. Really, the Suns play so well at home that it's hard to beat them. But, man, Dallas really puts up a good fight, and Luka, when he gets it going, he's unstoppable. He's the best offensive player on the planet, and his usage rate is high, but he gets everyone else involved. And when they're hitting shots, it's tough to beat because he draws so much attention to himself with the driving kicks. Once those threes start falling, I mean, the game, not last game, the game before, Lord, I thought they were going to slow down after halftime because they had hit like 15, 16 threes in the first half. They came out still hitting them in the second half. They just couldn't miss at all. It's crazy to see the Mavericks offense when it gets going. And this has been a fun series, a real chippy series so far. I do like the Suns to win this one because they have 2 shots to do it, obviously. But Luka, man, he's been putting on a show out there, and you can tell Book and Paul don't like it very much. much.
They don't. And I don't think Paul has much to say about it, of course, over his career, but Chris Paul's got to be better, man. If the Suns want to win the world championship, he's got to be better. Book's been great. I agree with you. I think the Suns win this, but I think the Mavericks win tonight. I think this goes 7 because of how good Luka has been. And to be honest, man, he really hasn't been that great in terms of efficiency. Like if his players were stepping up around him like they did in that game 3, Dallas might have already won this series. The issue is you get Dorian Finney-Smith having 8 for 12 one night, which, by the way, he's an underrated player, man. He's a legit two-way player. He's awesome to watch. And then the next night you get Reggie Bullock going 0 for 5. Like, we need some consistency from them because Luka's three-point shot the last 3 games hasn't been falling, and he's still putting up so much numbers and all that stuff. But when that's not falling, he's got to get some help from his guys. I think they do tonight. One thing on Luka here, man, and you watch a lot of basketball. You play basketball. You know this. Luka might be, man, the most fundamentally sound basketball player I've seen in a long, long time. I don't want to say ever because I know Tim Duncan was so, but this guy, he's not very athletic, okay? Like he's athletic, but he's not very fast. He doesn't jump that high. He is so good at using his body, dude, to get around defenders and to get to his spot. It's almost like he does it in slow-mo. It's because he's so good at using his body, and they still have no answer for it. I mean, he is doing this against guys like Mikal Bridges, who almost won Defensive Player of the Year, against Jay Crowder. They're throwing everyone at him, and it doesn't matter who's getting on him. He is getting around him, and he's not doing it with speed or anything like that. He's just fundamentally sound, dude. He knows how to use his body the correct way, and it's like anybody that wants to be a basketball player that's not that fast, that's not that good, watch Luka and learn how to, obviously it's way easier said than done, but just learn how to, like, his IQ of using his body is something I've never seen before, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, maybe it's because he just doesn't look like it on TV. But one big thing about Luka is he's big. He's just a big dude. He's like he's 6'8". Like he's legitimately big. Yeah. He's very Larry Bird. He's got a lot of Bird in him because he's not gonna out jump you a ton. He's not gonna blow past you. But man, he's gonna get by you still. It's just not.
He's a better passer than Bird, though.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He's a crazy passer. Yeah. He's kind of how you would imagine a Larry Bird would play nowadays, kind of thing. But the thing about Luka is he's going to get to where he wants to go no matter what. You're just not going to stop him. If you do cut him off, he's just going to turn you around and put you on his back and post you. And then he has every shot off the window. He has all the floater game. He's got every shot in his bag. And he's just a finisher from any spot on the floor, really, but he definitely has the spots that he likes. And you're right, his shot has been off. If his shot was hitting, he'd be averaging like 35, 36 in the series. He can't hit a 3 right now, and he's still putting up like 28, 30 points a game. It's crazy to watch. Again, if the Mavericks hit their open shots, it's almost impossible to defend them. Really, the only times they've been losing is when they don't hit shots, and then the Suns get an avalanche run. Yeah. And you can almost – it's funny. The Suns' runs look exactly the same. Yeah, always. You get Paul or Book go down and score about 5 to 6 straight, and then they start hitting people in the corner, and that's exactly how their runs look every time. But I'm going to put a little challenge out there. Ayton needs to play better. Ayton's got to play bigger for sure. He's a big man out there. You can't let Kleber and Bertans bother you, man.
That's what I'm saying. That's great point about that, man. He doesn't – it's not like they have a Giannis back there or Lopez, someone that's really good. I mean, look, Kleber's a great shooter. Bertans a good shooter. These aren't defensive caliber guys here, man. And Ayton's kind of been obsolete in this series. He really has not done anything at all. It's a really good point. And another thing I just want to say is, when Jalen Brunson shows up like a number 2, the Mavericks win every single time. It's when he doesn't show up is when they've been – if you go and look at the games they won, he's in the 23 pluses with point-wise. The ones that he's lost, he's in the teens or less. Like, Luka needs a number 2. He needs a number 2 bad, or he at least needs everyone – Finney, Bullock, all these guys.
Dinwiddie
Dinwiddie's had
too.
Dinwiddie's had a terrible series. Like one good game, Dinwiddie. Get us a game 7. I want a game 7. I'm with you. I think the Suns win it. That's a great point. In terms of moving forward, they're going to need Ayton if they want to win the whole thing.
Oh, for sure. Especially if they play if they were to play a Milwaukee or a Miami.
Yeah.
And then even the outlier if Embiid somehow got there too. But especially if you play Milwaukee, you've got to have some length out there. You can't just play them small like they've been playing Dallas a little bit. Ayton's got to show up and be big because he's a big man. And that's what he's got to go out there and do. It's kind of bad to see him play like that, but at the same time, I feel like he can shake out of that and get out of his head. Because honestly, Chris Paul's had an up and down series himself.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Chris Paul's played very up and down this series, and I think he needs to play better as well for them to move on. I still like the Suns. They just need to get their two of their core 3 or 4 guys to get back on track. Let's move on to that Bucks Celtics series because that's probably been the best series. Maybe you can argue a little bit of the
I think it's been the best.
But I think that Bucks Celtics series has been crazy. Jason Tatum has been playing like a superstar, but you got Giannis who's playing like the best player on the planet. And that game that he just played last night put him over the top, 40 points. And I mean, you can argue that Smart choked it away, but at the same time, what a performance by Giannis to get a game that they didn't have to win, but you definitely could tell they wanted to win that, and now they can close it out in 6 and really assert their dominance if they want to. Such a good game by Giannis.
It was incredible. It was a moment that was Giannis has already had his moment in the finals last year when he went for 40 in Game 6, but that was a moment that was outrageous, and I don't want to take anything away from Giannis because it was like for him, he's made 3 threes this entire playoffs. I think he's like 3 for 20 or something. And for him to hit that 1-3 to get them within 3, so then Holiday could hit the next one is just such a championship player shot, man. It's such a big shot. But I hate to be this guy. The Celtics choked this away. This is a disgusting loss for the Celtics. If I'm a Boston Celtics fan, I'm sick to my stomach today, man, because they just went from possibly most likely winning the series. And again, this is the champions we're talking about. So they still might not have won the series, but a hell of a bigger chance to win it to probably not winning it now. Now, I still think they have a chance. I'll talk about that in a minute, but everything they did in those last 2 minutes was completely different from what they've been doing all playoffs. They completely lost their way. Marcus Smart was awful. I mean, Marcus Smart was really bad. He was falling over all over the place. The fact that they didn't realize, everybody in that arena, everybody watching that game knew that Giannis is not a great free throw shooter. And I think there's like a 45% chance based on his shooting percentage at the line that he was going to miss one of those shots. And the fact that they didn't get that rebound because they were more Smart fell into Brown or whatever is just, it is one of those plays that absolutely makes you look and say, they're going to lose the series because of that. You lock that game up and you have 2 chances, one being back at home to beat the Bucks. Now you have to go back there where that place is going to be reckless because everybody knows Milwaukee doesn't want to come back to Boston for a Game 7. They're going to do everything they can to finish that. And it's just another moment, man, in this Celtics era with Tatum and Brown where you just sit there and say, again, like they're so good and they always come up short. And back then I wasn't always able to fault them because it was LeBron. And I know Giannis is really good, but Giannis is not LeBron to me yet. He's on the path, but he's not LeBron. And they had everything going to win this series. And they just once again messed it up, man. And it's got to be annoying if you're a Boston fan because you really let this one go now. Like you really screwed it up.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is back then you couldn't really blame them because they were young. They kind of have the experience and age now too. So you kind of are like, man, this was the time right here. You can go and clinch this up because really, if you look across, you're not looking at Miami like a big threat. I mean, let's be real. And I don't think Boston fears the Sixers at all. So I think they're probably really playing almost their championship right here to get to the finals. And it's just sad to see because you just have such mental errors here and there. And then I know you had the Robert Williams injury, so maybe they would guard Giannis a little better. But they're dealing with not having Middleton too, so you gotta think that evens out a little bit, even more toward Milwaukee being down more. It's just sad to see the way that went about it and the way that happened, because they had another close game in the series too, where
Yeah.
it came down to the wire, and you thought Boston was going to win it, and here they go. It's just they get so close they can't get over the hump. It's sad to see, because, but I'll tell you what, Jason Tatum. I mean, mad respect to him. He's
star.
definitely joined that top 10 in the league conversation, where
Yes.
he's going to take over the game. And at the end, in the last 2 minutes, it needs to be him, and he needs to be the guy with the ball and not Marcus Smart. But man, just the way he kind of carries the team a little bit, he's definitely the alpha now. It's no longer him and Jalen going at each other. He's definitely the guy. I think that defined role has actually helped Boston out a lot. You want me to make my Giannis point now? Okay. So I wanted to bring this up because I was thinking about it. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit because you don't look at him as a LeBron type, and that's understandable. So I want to talk to you about this because I think this is going to be a future argument that people are going to have. So I want to get ahead of it a little bit. Kind of look into the future of takes. Tell me, why do you think LeBron is so hated? I think there's 4 reasons for it.
Oh, you want me to give you why?
Yeah, just give me a few of them.
Okay, one, he came out as the chosen one. He came out as this 18-year-old superstar, and it's just it's the closest thing we've seen to Jordan, and that really gets people. 2, the decision. I think the decision absolutely makes it where they hate him. Other than that, man, that's why I always fight for this guy, because I don't know. Maybe it's the way he acts on the court with the fouls and the flare in his arms. Maybe because he left Cleveland the first time, which are things that I can't comprehend. But I think those are things that have to do with why they don't like this guy. Maybe they think he whines. He should have never left Cleveland. He's been the chosen one since he was a young kid. And the decision.
All right. So I've always felt there was 4 reasons, and there's 4 different groups of people that hate LeBron and get there. So the last one and most recent one is a lot of people don't like him politically now. So I'm going to throw that out. That's like a big thing now, more recently than before. So number 1, you nailed it on the first one. You've got a big era of group of people that Jordan's going to be the GOAT no matter what. They don't want to hear about it, and LeBron threatened that. So that's a number 1 group. The number 2 group comes from the decision group. They don't like that he jumps teams and builds a team and doesn't do it the hard way on that, whether you believe it's hard that way or leaving. Either way, you can make the battles on that. The third group, and this is a smaller group, I was going to throw that out, but you actually see it on Twitter every now and then, basketball Twitter especially. There's a few basketball purists, and these are the people that always rank Kobe and Kevin Durant ahead of him, that just think LeBron's just athletic and he doesn't have a bag. So that's why they hate on LeBron, because it's like he's not a skilled player, he's an athlete. So I'm going to go with the first 2, and this is the point I want to make. The first 2 is originally the hardcore MJ guys who was never going to give LeBron a chance didn't like him because he was going to really go challenge MJ. And then the second group that maybe was giving LeBron a chance, because I fully believe there's a group of people that believe this too. I almost feel like LeBron's greatest accomplishment in his career is taking that Cavs team to the finals that was so bad. They got swept by the Spurs.
Yeah.
Because that team was terrible. Like, no way they should have ever made it. So then there's this group that he made the decision, he bounced team to team, and immediately it disqualified him. People hated him for it. So here's my question to you, because I think there's now a group of LeBron, like, GOAT conversation believers that I think is going to start to hate on Giannis. Because Giannis, if he wins another title this year, he's going to get close to like being in that conversation how LeBron, after he got his 2, started getting elevated even more. Because there was people when LeBron made that first finals that was like, okay, this guy has a shot at Jordan. He's just got to get the rings. He's got to get the rings. But then he left to do it, and that disqualified him in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
Giannis now has MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, all these first teams, a finals MVP. If he can win back-to-back right here, you're looking at he's halfway to LeBron's title amount. I think there's going to be a group of LeBron supporters out there that are going to start to view Giannis as a threat. I'm telling you, over the next few years, we're going to see some LeBron fans start to tear Giannis down the way a lot of Jordan fans tears LeBron down.
think that's a really good point. I think it's interesting, and I think you're right. I totally believe that will happen, especially if he has to win back-to-back this year.
Yeah, he wins it this year. Yes,
he has
that's
to
what
win back-to-back. Now, a lot of people are going to say LeBron went to 8 straight finals, like he's nowhere near that. But if you're just looking at what he's done with two back-to-back finals and 2 back-to-back final MVPs, and they can argue he didn't have Middleton for half the playoffs this time, that will be an argument where Giannis, and you know what is different about this too, because of everything you just said, I think more people will actually like Giannis than the amount of people that hate on LeBron because of everything that you just went through. They're going to say, first of all, he's from Greece. He's not a hateable guy. He's just the dude just is likable. Everyone likes him, and he didn't leave. It was a home-built team. He talks about not leaving, and he's really showing his dominance. I mean, he's finally showing his true dominance, that he's a championship and the blood hanging from his eye. I think you're right, man. I think that there will be some hardcore LeBron fans. Now, me personally, I'm not going to hate on him because I don't think he's anywhere near it, even if he goes back to back. I personally don't. Now, if he goes three-peat, then there's going to be a serious conversation about, is this guy already in the top 5? I mean, like we're going to seriously be, or like trajectory wise, because he still has to do a lot more, but that would be incredible. But if he goes back to back, there will without a doubt be the haters of lovers of LeBron going at Giannis and trying to debunk some of his stuff to say, get that out of here. The one thing that I think that people will come at Giannis about is this. He never had to go through LeBron. He never had to go through, he went through Kevin Durant, and I think that was impressive, but people are going to say he didn't have Kyrie, even though he had Kyrie for majority of that series. He hasn't had that team on the other end or on the conference that he has had to go through, where it's the best player in the game, the best team, that like LeBron had to go through the Spurs, who at the time a lot of people thought were a dynasty. Then LeBron had to go through the Warriors, which is a 73-9 win team. LeBron never had to go through Kobe, unfortunately. That would have been remarkable. They got close that one year, but it didn't happen. I still think Giannis on his way either to the finals or in the finals, he needs to go up against someone like that, man. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I can see where that's a little bit of an argument there. I know some of the LeBron fans throw shade on Jordan for not having to really go through people either. But again, he played the bad boys and all that toward the end, even though they were falling off a little bit. So this is where that argument gets interesting for me, because it's going to be fun. Because the reason why a lot of the Jordan fans hate LeBron is because they're like, oh, well, you just make him a stat monster and then he jumps teams constantly. Yeah. And the reason why LeBron fans always argue against Jordan is, well, LeBron went to this amount of finals, even though he didn't win them. He's going to have all the records, this and that. He's the most dominant all-around player. And then the Jordan fans always go, well, Jordan on defense on the ball was dominant while also being the offensive guy. The fun thing about Giannis is, if he stays in the same spot, he's just as athletic and crazy as LeBron. LeBron's just going to have stats on him, which already the Jordan fans knock all the time. Yeah. And then if you go to the Jordan side of it, Giannis has the defense to back it up too. So Giannis is kind of going to wedge himself in if he can win some championships. This is where I know people don't like to just project into the future, but if he can get some titles right here, especially this back-to-back, and really keep a run going, because he's only 28.
Yeah.
If he can get this, he's really going to wedge himself right in between the two that we argue about all the time, because he has aspects of both of them going. And it's going to be a fun argument over the next 10 years that I really look forward to. But I do fully believe we're going to have some huge LeBron fans that are going to go full MJ fans right here and just start to try to tear him down toward the end. It's going to be shooting percentages and passing, and you're going to hear all that coming out. And it's going to be a fun debate, because I do believe that's going to happen. I just wanted to give a little peek into the future, because I was thinking about it with his accomplishments. If he can win this one, we're going to start to get a little bit of the internet streets are going to start to talk about it.
No doubt.
It's going to be fun.
I think it's a phenomenal point you brought up. It's definitely going to be a debate on First Take, on Undisputed. You are so right about that. And to the one last thing, we'll move on here. I could even see, because Jordan fans hate LeBron so much,
No
because
jumping.
I think that they will jump to Giannis and put Giannis above LeBron. I think you will even see Jordan fans going and saying, look, you're talking about LeBron. No, we need to be talking about Giannis, just to throw more of that down there on LeBron. I think you're totally right about that. So very fascinating topic. Let us know your thoughts on that. If Giannis goes back to back here, does that possibly get him in a conversation where we start to see some fans of LeBron James starting to maybe get defensive on what comes next in Giannis's career? Now let's move on to this here. And this is two things outside of the playoffs that's going on. You had Brooklyn Nets general manager Sean Marks, who I think is a phenomenal GM. He had his end of the year type of press conference thing, and he said some things, and I'm actually going to read you part of the quote that he said. He said this, he said, quote, "I think we know what we're looking for." Mark said, "We're looking for guys that want to come in here and be part of something bigger than themselves. Play selfless, play team basketball, and be available. That goes not only for Kyrie, but for everybody." If you read those, sometimes, guys, when someone is saying something, they're literally telling you exactly what they're saying. They're just not saying it straight up. Sean Marks is literally telling you right there, we have no idea if we want to bring Kyrie back. And it sounds like they're honestly really considering, do we actually want to do this? And they're looking around right now. I guarantee it. They're having these conversations. It does not mean they're going to do it. But I guarantee you, inside that next Nets organization right now, they are having conversations on what we could possibly do if we moved on from Kyrie and who we could possibly bring in. And is that okay with Kevin Durant? You don't come out and say that type of comment unless you are directly saying something to Kyrie and to KD and to everyone else saying, we don't want this anymore. And the thing that is so big that I want people, because people forget about this. A couple years ago, the Nets were the golden child to other organizations of how to build a rebuild. They built that from the ground up. I mean, the Nets were in a terrible situation. Gave up all those draft picks unprotected. That's how Boston got so good, all that stuff. And Sean Marks went in there and built a culture, man. He built something where people were looking at and saying, man, they're fun. They're entertaining. They're in Brooklyn. They had a great young developmental coach in Kenny Atkinson. And he built this thing, all of it to then just get pretty much destroyed because they went for the sexier house. It's like they built this house with great foundation, but it didn't look that great outside. So they went and upgraded on this house, and the house has weak wood and weak bearings and all that stuff. And I get it. You go for the home run stars, but Sean Marks is starting to remind people, I've built a damn good team here, and it's getting thrown away. We brought these two guys in, and we won one playoff series. And I think we're hearing Sean Marks get fed up with it now. And I will not be surprised if they try and do something with Kyrie. I'm not saying they will, and I'm not saying that he is saying it, but I'm telling you, they are considering all options right now. I fully believe that. What do you think of that?
I agree with that, and I think this summer is going to be very interesting for Kyrie and Harden with the Sixers and the Nets, or whether to extend them or not. And really, that's a conversation you never have in the NBA now, because really the NBA is an asset league. So even if a player is declining, you still max them no matter what, because you just think in the end you'll trade them away, and the expiring contract's an asset then. In the NFL, it's different. In the NFL, if your player is declining, you kick them to the curb, you replace them with cheap labor in the draft. It's not like that in the league. You can't piss the stars off because you don't want other stars to see how you treated them right there. So it's going to be really hard for him to be able to go against Kyrie and not sign him. But I do think he's considering it. And I think not only was that a shot at Kyrie, it was to Ben Simmons saying, hey, we need to get you back on the floor next year. I don't care what's going on about your physical, mental stuff. We need to see you out there. So I think that's the two that he's really talking to there. And I could see them maybe moving on from Simmons if they had to. Because, again, you say, well, what can he get back? I'm telling you, any mid-level player with their contract or anything can get traded. Yeah. We're probably going to see Westbrook traded. It might not be for anything great, but you can get traded in the NBA. That's why they signed him to the deal still. So I do see Kyrie getting signed. But is he going to be there, that full contract? I highly doubt it. I feel like he's going to get moved maybe even the year after next, possibly 2 years from that. I think he's going to get moved for sure. And it's going to be up to KD what he wants to do. I know he's friends with Kyrie. I think that's the interesting one, just from a front office view, is do you sign the player that's giving you all this issue, or do you say, oh, go kick rocks? Because that's never really happened in the NBA. That does not happen.
No doubt about it. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, who's going to want to trade for Kyrie? Listen, teams will trade for Kyrie. There's going to be a lot of teams that are reluctant about it, but there will be teams that do it. This is the only thing here. They have to do something this year, whether they bring everyone back or not. And everyone keeps saying, well, COVID's gone. That's not going to be an issue. People are forgetting. They're just focusing on that. Kyrie also gets hurt all the time. It's not just COVID. He also is not available just because of injury-wise. It's not just COVID's gone, this and that. There's always something with Kyrie, and this next year is huge for the Nets. They cannot make it 4 years of only winning one round in the playoffs. That's a disaster. So Sean Marks understands that. Sean Marks is saying, I'm a damn good GM, and I'm not going to get fired for all this crap. And he is letting people know he means business now, and it's going to be fascinating. Another team that wants to mean business that has not exceeded expectations the last 2 years is the Lakers. And look, Jeannie Buss sat down with Bill Plaschke, great reporter for the LA Times out there, and went through a lot of stuff. And we could do a whole show on everything she said, but there's a couple things I want to pull out on this. One, if you're a Lakers fan, I don't think you should be very happy after hearing this interview. And this is why I say that. The only thing that made me happy or made me feel like, okay, was that she's clearly pissed off and she's upset, which means something is going to happen. And that makes me happy, because I was getting worried that maybe they stand pat and go back and run this thing back. And that's a total, utter disaster. So I think something will happen. Now, this is where I'm not happy. What will happen? Because she alluded to, she backed Kurt Rambis. She said, and I'll read the quote. She literally said, I know there's been a lot of unfair criticism of Kirk Rambis. I want to remind people he's been involved in the NBA for close to 40 years, that he has been a part of a championship teams as both a player and assistant coach. He is someone I admire his basketball knowledge. That is a slap in the face to Lakers fans. I'm sorry. I understand Kirk Rambis has done his thing. He is awful at making decisions and coaching basketball. We have seen that already. So the fact that she's still dealing with him, the fact that she's dealing with Phil Jackson, this isn't her dealing with Phil Jackson as a coach. This is her dealing with Phil Jackson as an executive. What has Phil done to show anybody as an executive that he knows what the hell he's doing? And that's just another cook in the kitchen. And then the last thing I want to bring up is what she said here. In terms of this quote, in terms of basketball decisions, I have complete confidence in our front office, which is headed by Rob Pelinka. He is a person that is extremely smart, extremely strategic. Everything he does is thoughtful and with purpose. I have complete confidence that he can put together a roster and find a coach that is going to get us back to where we belong. Well, Jeannie, if you have complete confidence in Pelinka, then why are you bringing in Magic, Phil Jackson, Kirk Rambis, and Linda Rambis to all make decisions too, and LeBron's people, Rich Paul and them? You clearly don't have confidence in Pelinka, or you would let him run the damn job. But supposedly Phil's helping out with coaching. Supposedly Phil might want to trade LeBron. Supposedly this and that's happening. The only thing that got me ears up in a good way is that she's pissed off. But she didn't say anything about who's actually running it. Everyone's still there. All these decisions are still making. It's still, to me, a complete mess, bro. And I don't like anything about that.
Yeah, a quick point on LeBron being there. LeBron should want to get traded if he wants to win titles.
Agreed.
Because I don't know if he's going to win one again with the Lakers. I really don't. I don't think they have the pieces in place to build a team and to be anywhere close to contention, especially with the four we see left in the West right now. Like, it's going to take a lot to get over these four teams now. They're all young. They're all there. They're going to have to catch some luck and injury breaks. So if I'm LeBron, I kind of wouldn't mind getting traded. But the thing about LeBron is he wants to be in LA, so that's kind of the tough deal on that. The next thing is who's in charge?
That's what I'm saying.
Who makes the decision? It makes no sense. I cheer for nothing but dumpster fire teams. One is cheap and can't pay people in the Pirates. The Kings are the most dysfunctional NBA team there is, but at least I know that Monty makes the call on the front office.
Yeah.
Like, at least I know who makes the call. We've just had Vlade making terrible calls for years. At least I know who's making the call now. I mean, it's a disaster, man.
It is, man.
Like, and it makes me laugh out loud to be like, I really trust what Kurt Rambis has to say. He has many knowledge. He was the winner as an assistant coach, where the head coach did all the work, and he kind of developed players. And he was a player on championship teams, where he was like the fourth, fifth best player on the team. Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here, honestly? And Phil, are we really talking to Phil now about things? Did you see how he was with the Knicks? I heard some people list off the coaches he hired with the Knicks, and he's apparently helping with the coaching search. That was Derek Fisher, Hornacek, like people that aren't in the league hardly. Like, I mean, and can we stop with the triangle? Is LeBron really going to run the triangle?
No.
Once I'm gone, he's not going to run the triangle. Whoever Phil hires is going to be a triangle guy. You know that, right? Like, if he has final say on the coach, it's going to be a triangle guy.
Yeah.
Like,
which is
it's a dumpster fire going on out there, and I feel bad for Laker fans that aren't LeBron fans. I feel bad for LeBron fans that aren't Laker fans because they're kind of married right now, and it's a bad situation all around. When LeBron leaves, they're not going to be in contention at all. They're going to be a bottom 5 team in the league for a while. I know Lakers fans hate to hear that, and LeBron, honestly, if he wants to win titles, should want to leave at this point because I don't think they can contend in the next few years.
It's an absolute mess, and again, it just contradicts everything because, like you said, the rumors are that Phil's looking for a coach, and not only coaching, the guy drafted Frank Ntilikina over Donovan Mitchell. Like, there's so many things that he has done that. But if he's helping, then clearly Rob Pelinka's not the trigger man because he's also having to hear from all these other guys. And supposedly Phil doesn't even like LeBron, and LeBron doesn't like Phil. Like, listen, I want LeBron to see it out in LA. Like, I would love him to make it work and win another championship there. But if I was him, I would be calling Pat Riley, and I would be teaming up with Jimmy Butler down in Miami. I would do what gets send Bam, do a double big man over here with AD and Bam. I don't know, man. Send everyone over this way and go back with Jimmy Butler because I think that's the most realistic option where LeBron would go. You know, I've heard like LeBron would never do this, but I've heard that LeBron would go and freaking team up with Jason Tatum in Boston. LeBron's not going to Boston. Like,
he ain't going to play in Boston.
He's not going to Boston, all right? That's not happening. But I've heard all that stuff. People are just trying to think of teams that have assets that could send backup for LeBron. It's not happening. Also, LeBron's not going to the Warriors. I've heard that. LeBron's not going to the Warriors. I don't see that happening. I know people think it could happen, but I don't see it happening. I don't see them giving up Clay and Poole to get LeBron, and I don't see the Lakers accepting that. I think the Warriors would do it. I don't think the Lakers would accept it. So I just think that either they need to figure it out, which seems like they're not going to. The biggest thing they need to do is trade Westbrook. Like, if I hear one more thing about they might try and run this back, I'm out. I'm out on it. I can't talk about it. I can't watch it. They have to trade Westbrook, see what they can get, see if they can get some shooters, and go from there. But I think you're right, man. I think that if I'm LeBron, I would start really scratching my head at this point.
Yeah, got to have a trigger, man. You got to have somebody in charge. And if it's not going to be Genie, then you have to appoint someone and be like, listen, Rich Paul, everyone, this is who the decision maker is. This is who's going to deal with it. And you got to pick one of them. And even if you pick wrong, you pick wrong. But at least you have one person in charge. You can't have a bunch of chefs in the kitchen like they always say. It's terrible business, and it's a terrible way to run a team. I hate to see it. Really, I do.
Without a doubt, man. Without a doubt. And teams are only getting better and better as we go, especially out west there. So this is the Money Down Pod. That is Sean White. I'm Kayvon Izami. Tune in. We will have an NFL schedule show in the next couple days here, breaking down all the teams' schedules and looking through some of the toughest and easiest schedules as we go. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. Give Sean a follow at Dumpster Fire Fan. Myself at Kayvon_sports. And as I said, we are the only show, or one of the only shows here on this platform or on any platform, that will answer immediately to any of the questions you guys ask us. Just write them in the comment section and we will answer it on the very next show. We'll give your name, we'll shout you out, we'll go head to head about it, and we'll have some fun. So please like, subscribe, review. Talk to you guys soon.